To Guam, Micronesia, and the CNMI. Cars Plus, home of Guam's first and only lifetime powertrain warranty. Visit carsplusguam.com for details. McDonald's of Guam, I'm loving it, and King's Restaurant, serving your local breakfast, lunch, and dinner favorites for over 45 years.
Ahead on primetime. A pair of brothers lose everything in a structure fire in the Zero Down area in Jigo. Plus the latest on the alleged coercion of a CLTC land agent by its director. And the governor of Guam signs a handful of bills into law.
HATTIG, good evening. I'm Tyler Matsanani. Two brothers lost everything in a home structure fire that occurred early this afternoon in the Zero Down area of Jigo. KUAM's Adriana Cotero reports.
I heard my neighbor saying there's fire here, so I ran out. My house was burning.
AJ George was next door at his grandmother's home when he saw flames engulf his home and smoke fill the air. He reported the fire, and within minutes, firefighters were on the scene. According to Guam Fire Department acting spokesperson Charika Chargaloff, at 11:44 a.m., GFD received the 911 call reporting the structure fire along Chalan Estrez's Zero Down in Jigo. Units arrived on scene 10 minutes later, and the fire was out by 12:14 p.m. George has lived in this 3-bedroom house for nearly 4 years with his brother, who was also not home at the time. George, while still in shock, was at a loss for words, but his auntie Agnes Sweeney, who lives in close proximity, explains how the fire reached her residence.
Even me, part of my house is burned, but the firemen able to come and they kill the fire from my house. It burned from the roof down inside, the ceiling and the roof.
Agnes says there are 17 people who reside in her house.
We were able to evacuate my mom outside and the children and all the documents we have.
The family is thankful that no one was injured, although feel devastated by the loss of one of their homes and all the belongings they were unable to save.
It's very hard, especially for my nephew, because he lost everything in there. There's nothing left for him.
If you wish to reach out and provide any assistance to the family, you can reach Auntie Agnes directly at 671-858-4060. Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Adriana Cotero.
Is it coercion or a recommendation? Here's more on the allegations made against CLTC Director Jack HATTIG.
I am not comfortable. And he had coerced me into making the change. I did not want to do it, but I felt I had no choice because he forced me to add the request to transfer application rights over to him, despite what the law says, despite the opinion of the former Attorney General. I really did not like it. I felt he was asking me to violate the law that went against my moral code.
The Chamorro Land Trust Commission's February meeting took quite the turn when the commission began addressing constituent concerns, with land agent Lindia Tulu alleging that CLTC Director Jack HATTIG coerced her into requesting the transfer of application rights from one constituent to another, despite the commission's rules and a former Attorney General's opinion, prompting CLTC Board Chair John REYES Jr. to table all relative constituent matters and launch an investigation.
We've addressed it with the director. What's paramount, right, is transparency, clarity, and openness and communication to ensure, right, that none of this happens again.
But when asked about the status of the investigation,
I'd rather not discuss that piece right now because it is part of my report. But what I can say is that I'm taking the necessary steps to move forward in how these reports are generated, on how they're reported to us. We're treating it as a personal matter, an HR matter.
Responding to the board on the allegations brought forth by Tulu, HATTIG stated that he was making a recommendation, and although it appears that recommendation would be illegal, Governor Lulian Guerrero stands by her man at the CLTC.
I am very confident that Jack has not intentionally meant anything contrary to the laws or the regulations or the commission's instructions. So I have every confidence that Jack, in his deliberations, will also show that he has done everything within his authority.
More and more questions are being asked on the issue and whether or not it's an isolated incident. The Commission's decision to treat the matter as a personnel issue leaves much to the imagination, but when directly asked if the CLTC is covering up the incident,
There's nothing. No, because I'm doing what I need to do. I'm putting forward a process. I'm committed to making sure that none of this happens again. And there's nothing to cover up.
For Guam's News Network, I'm Peter Santos.
A proclamation was signed by Governor Lou Leon Guerrero, Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio, with military leaders also adding their signature, and a legislative resolution was presented by Speaker Therese Terlahi to proclaim April 2021 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, Child Abuse Prevention Month, and Youth Month. The mission is to make Guam a safer place, as the Guam Coalition Against Sexual Assault and Family Violence reported alarming facts from 2020. This includes 190 sexual assaults reported, an increase in child abuse by close to 5%, with approximately 1,000 cases referred to Child Protective Services, a rise in the number of minors reporting sexual assault at 75%, in which 63% are not reported to the police. In the U.S., nearly 1 in 5 women and 1 in 67 men reported rapes, and 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls are sexually assaulted before the age of 18. In her remarks, Governor Lou Leon Guerrero says sexual assault continues to be the most underreported crime.
% of reported cases in 2018 to 71% in 2019 to 75% of cases in 2020. So clearly, we need to focus more on protecting our children from sexual assault. We can do that in several ways. By continuing to educate our children with regard to speaking out and saying no.
Most importantly, the governor says we can engage women, men, and young adults in community conversations of having respect for one another and sexual consent.
We are making strides toward eradicating sexual assault, child abuse, and other crimes. Still, this is clearly an uphill battle. All of you are part of that effort.
April 18th to the 24th will be recognized as National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Earlier this week, Governor Leon Guerrero signed Executive Order 2021-07, which lifts several restrictions, including increasing the social gathering limit to 50 people. Here's more. Get the potato salad, red rice, and shrimp kelaguen ready because you're going to need it at your Easter gathering. An Executive Order 2021-07 signed by the governor earlier this week. Those dining indoors at restaurants will now be able to sit as a party of 8, and the social gathering limit has increased from 25 to 50. Governor's Communications Director, KRYSTAL PACO San Agustin.
For outdoor dining, there's no occupancy limit, obviously, because it's outdoors, but we ask that you keep tables to no more than 15 people per party.
The order also extends the island's public health emergency another month until May 1st, 2021, and continues Guam's track on pandemic condition of Readiness 3. The governor also issued Guidance 2021-10, which complements her last executive order. The guidance allows most businesses to operate at 75% occupancy, such as retail, banks, gas stations, hardware stores, and media agencies. The list goes on, but what PACO San Agustin says is more important to note are the ones that remain at 50% occupancy.
Dining will remain at 50%. Bars and taverns will remain at 50%. Bingo halls, bowling alleys, eating and drinking establishments, game rooms, gyms and fitness centers, private swimming pools, places of worship. Since you're probably all going to be going to church this weekend, note that the places of worship can still only operate at 50%.
PACO San Agustin goes on to praise the community, saying, quote, "The people of Guam are doing great. We have low hospitalizations, no deaths to report as of late, and low positivity rates."
This is just a testament to the great work of the people of Guam and abiding by the guidance from public health, wearing their mask, washing their hands, watching their distance, and keeping that CARS score low.
So now you can enjoy your Easter weekend with up to 50 members of your family, but you're reminded to practice social distancing, wash your hands, wear your masks when you can, and don't forget, find that golden egg. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers is locking horns with Texas-based company Invicta Defense LLC and its subcontractors. A protest was held outside Anderson Air Force Base this morning. The IBEW 1260 union has filed a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board after Invicta allegedly didn't comply with their collective bargaining agreement to give preferential hiring to union employees for a multi-million-dollar contract that was previously held by DZSP for work to be performed at the GEGO Air Base. Ken LAGUANA is the assistant business manager for the union.
Because they didn't work with us, and they selected, because the list that they gave me of names and classifications that they hired were not according to Article X, which is seniority, and no explanation of why they didn't select the people that are seniority. All they did was send me names and the positions that they were offered.
At least 60 union members were left unemployed. The IBEW has also reached out to our local leaders to help in their fight. Vice Speaker Tina Muñoz-Barnes is one of the elected leaders who is responding to IBEW's call for help. The Vice Speaker has written a letter to Invicta Defense, Guam Department of Labor, and the U.S. Department of Labor expressing her concerns about the actions of the contractor. Senator Muñoz-Barnes stating that Invicta's actions goes against the One Guam approach that was agreed upon with the Department of Defense when talks of the military buildup began years ago. She is urging immediate resolution of the matter as the livelihoods of 60 employees and their 300 dependents are on the line. President Biden is unveiling a massive infrastructure plan today, described as one of the most ambitious federal spending proposals in American history. The administration's goal is to modernize the nation's roads, airports, and even aging schools. But lawmakers are expected to clash over how to pay for it. Natalie Brand reports from the White House.
President Biden headed to Pittsburgh to unveil his $2 trillion American Jobs Plan at a carpenter's training center.
The speech is really about his vision for creating jobs, good paying union jobs, and really investing in the industries of the future.
According to the proposal, more than $600 billion would be spent to rebuild thousands of miles of highways and repair aging bridges. The plan ranges from upgrading major airports to investing in new electric vehicle charging stations to expanding affordable housing and clean drinking water. The administration says the proposal would be paid for with an overhaul of the nation's corporate tax policy aimed at reversing nearly the entire Trump administration tax cuts law, setting up a clash in Congress.
It's called infrastructure, but inside the Trojan horse is going to be more borrowed money and massive tax increases on all the productive parts of our economy.
Currently, the White House proposes to raise the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%, and it seeks to negotiate with other nations on a global minimum tax for multinational corporations.
Getting money for infrastructure helps us revitalize our economy and create new jobs.
CBS News has learned that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is looking into possibly using a second budget reconciliation process to advance the president's infrastructure plan, which would require just a simple majority. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
According to SBA's Ken Lujan, there's been an extension for the Paycheck Protection Program. Lujan says small business owners should be submitting their applications as soon as possible before the door of opportunity closes.
The advice I'm giving out to the community is don't wait on the second month. Don't wait until May to submit it. Please submit it in next month, April, because the banks could technically, again, close their portal, shut down their portal, and not receive any more applications 30 days prior to the expiration of this program.
Lujan says there's also been an increase in the loan limit for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program.
When the program first ran out, there was a size limitation, or a dollar limitation in which SBA capped the loan request up to $150,000. SBA has now extended the cap beginning April 6. It will increase from a 6-month injury, economic injury, with the maximum of $150,000 to 24 months of economic injury up to a maximum of $500,000.
Business owners interested in more information on the PPP extension and the economic injury disaster loan increase, call 472-7277 or email Ken Lujan at kenneth.lujan@sba.gov. The first payments won't be out till next week, but the processing of some 2,600 applications for emergency rental assistance continues. Department of Administration Deputy Director Bernie Gines has the latest update.
As of yesterday afternoon, close of business, we were able to review 910 applications. Out of that, eligible was 450. We've got ineligible at 302. And then we have about 158 which were incomplete. Incomplete, again, as we stated in the past, we're just seeking more information. They may, have included a family member in there, but then they didn't provide us some income, in reference to that person.
Gines says the payments will vary, but she has processed one for as much as $22,000. The assistance covers rent and utility payments. Applications are closed for the first round. A second round is expected to begin in May. The governor has signed 2 bills into law. Both were measures she had submitted to the legislature for consideration. The first bill authorizes the refunding of certain bonds backed by business privilege taxes. The administration says it will save over $20 million in debt service over the next 2 fiscal years. In her transmittal letter to the speaker, the governor said, quote, "As our island weathers the economic uncertainty caused by the COVID-19 crisis, it is more important than ever that we work to stabilize our government finances," unquote. The second bill appropriates nearly $3.9 million from prior fiscal years to the Guam Fire Department's Emergency E911 Fund. The governor writes that this closes an unfortunate ordeal during which the money was improperly transferred from the fund during the CALVO administration. The legislation allows the returned money to be used for its appropriate purposes, the governor wrote. Stick around for more news here on Primetime. You're watching KUAM.
The Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce presents Fanatsu Famalawan, Women Rising, on Thursday, April 8th. This virtual conference will reach you wherever you are, featuring international experts and thought leaders sharing their stories. Experience on-demand sessions, masterclasses, and conversations to inspire and empower. Register today. Fanatsu Famalawan, Inspiring Innovation, April 8th at GuamWomen'sChamber.com. Special thanks to our change agents and our other community partners.
Swim on in for Ruby Tuesday Seafood Sensations and enjoy your favorites from the sea in perfect time for Lent. Get hooked on lobster mac and cheese, the salmon loco moco, or the deep sea pasta. There's a bounty waiting for you on the RT Seafood Sensations menu at Ruby Tuesday Guam.
Social distancing may be the new norm, but connection will always be our tradition. Through good times and tough times, we remain connected with you. Masks may be the new fashion, but protection will always be our style. You can always count on us to protect the things that matter the most. Sanitizing may be the new routine, but caring will always be our practice. We care about your loved ones and the things you value the most. And as we welcome our new normal, one thing remains certain. We will always be here for you. We're open and ready to serve you. CALVO'S Insurance, a legacy of trust.
KUAM News, winner of the 2020 Regional Edward R. Murrow Award for Excellence in Social Media.
And welcome back. As we reported, GURA Director Ray Tapasnia said his team was on track to receive the best audit the Housing Authority has received in 58 years. Public Auditor BJ Cruz says he made sure that bit of conflict they had last year turned into cooperation.
My concern last year was that GORA had 2 qualifieds, 2 major deficiencies, and 2 significant deficiencies. And you know, that's what GDOE had 10 years ago. that resulted. And so I was concerned about it. I was meeting with them on a weekly, bi-weekly meeting and insisting that I be provided with updates on what was pending, what they hadn't provided, why they hadn't provided it, and we would meet and fight it through.
Cruz says GURA was able to get things cleaned up and has to admit it looks pretty good.
Yesterday when we had our exit interview, I was pleasantly surprised, but I commended them because they managed to get rid of both of the qualifieds and clean that up, thankfully. And they got rid of the 2 major deficiencies, but they still have about 6 significant deficiencies, which is less than major. And so it is the best audit that this agency has had in decades.
Cruz said the Housing Authority's audit result is an example that it is possible to clean up the problems and turn the audits in on time. Local construction industry officials believe some of that massive federal infrastructure spending is bound to trickle down to Guam. In a recent interview with KUAM, Black Construction Vice President Leonard Case said the new Biden initiative could further extend what is already a very busy construction cycle in Guam.
For the immediate future, our focus is geared towards the military realignment, and with this added infrastructure that's going to, be released by the new administration, exciting. How it translates back down to Guam in improving roads, bridges, infrastructure, I think is still, in preliminary stages. A lot of opportunities. I guess we just got to be thankful that, we're part of the overall picture as it relates to national defense.
Officials say the availability of labor will be a key to maintaining the construction boom, and Kay says Black Construction is working with the Guam Community College to train up the local workforce.
The key is as many as we can get out into the workforce will make a difference in the future for Guam, and the reliance on the H-2 program, eventually will diminish. But that's something that, I think as an organization we've got to be focused on is training, and we can train 100 today, and in a month, we're lucky we'll have 20 left. So, it's just the way the industry is.
A provision in the current defense budget now authorizes the use of foreign H-2 workers on private sector projects, as well as military construction. The legislature is looking to throw its support behind a U.S. House resolution that rejects the territorial incorporation doctrine. It refers to the so-called insular cases, which the courts have relied on to interpret the legal relationship between the federal government and the U.S. territories. But the resolution points out the racist-tinged decision by the Supreme Court, particularly a comment from former Justice Henry Brown, which describes the territories as, quote, inhabited by alien races that differ from us in religion, customs, and modes of thought, unquote. Vice Speaker Tina Barnes is sponsor of a local resolution to support the House effort, which she says is tied into Guam's quest for self-determination.
What do we need to do to truly give Guam the identity and the governance to decolonize ourselves? Something that was committed to us decades ago that we still don't have today. Whether people want statehood, whether people want independence, whether people want free association, that was a commitment from Uncle Sam that has not come our way.
The House resolution was sponsored by Natural Resources Committee Chair Raul Grijalva of Arizona. A resolution affirming Guam's right to clean drinking water has been introduced by Senator SABINA PEREZ as part of this year's World Water Day. The measure also seeks to draw attention to the need to protect the northern Guam Lens Aquifer, the island's main water source. In particular, PEREZ calls for the halt to further expansion of the live fire training range at Ritidian on Anderson Air Force Base.
To prevent from being cleared, and I want to make sure that that's protected. In addition to the prevention of the firing of 6.7 million bullets every year for an indefinite amount of time. And so here we're dealing with a legacy of contamination and lead. Adding to that is this firing range, and many of these bullets contain lead. It was even identified in their EIS that there's a potential for lead to leach into the aquifer.
The resolution also calls on United Nations representatives on human rights and safe drinking water and sanitation to visit Guam. The local effort to protect areas such as Retidian got a boost this week when 3 UN special rapporteurs or independent experts expressed concerns to the Biden administration about various issues, including the military presence here. Mayors are rounding them up, but saying there's no place to put them. GAIN President CYRUS LUHR says their shelter's always willing to take in the strays, but agrees they need more space. Here's more.
Recently, village mayors hit a bit of a speed bump in their continued effort of the stray dog roundup. Appearing on KUAM's The Link multimedia show, both MCOG President PD Mayor Jesse Allig, as well as Orda Chalampago Mayor Jesse Gogwe, touched on the subject, saying that they've been rounding up the strays, but there's just no place to put them. President of Guam Animals in Need, CYRUS LUHR.
Capacity at the shelter has always been a problem, and it continues to be a problem. And thankfully, the mayors are understanding. They're understanding of the difficult situation we're in, but I think everybody is rightfully frustrated when you are trying to pick up animals and do the right thing, and there's not space at the shelter. Then it's a difficult position, and it's the same story we've had for many years.
As far as capacity at the shelter is concerned,
it varies, but I would say probably between 100 to 150 dogs and about 30, 40 cats at any given time. Cats, we actually have a lot of turnover. They get adopted pretty quickly. It's the dogs that might stay with us for sometimes 6-7 months before they get adopted. We also have a robust foster network, so we should really thank the 75 families that are currently fostering animals for us. They are phenomenal. They help us relieve stress at the shelter. But ultimately, we need to expand the shelter. We need more kennel space. When I say we're at capacity, that is not we're now done. It is a daily thing. So one day we might tell the winning mayor's office that we're unable to accept it. The next day we might have openings because some fosters have been able to take in animals, or we've been able to move animals up to adoption row. So when I say we're at capacity, that is not a permanent status. That is something that changes throughout the day, throughout the week.
LUHR says it's about prioritization when it comes to the stray dog roundup. But even at that, the long-term solution is one we've heard time and time again.
What we encourage is that the mayors target, the problematic dogs, the ones that are regressive, that have bit people, that are, threatening children. Those are the animals that should be the highest priority. Those and injured animals should be coming to us, but otherwise, ultimately the solution for the island is widespread spaying and neutering. That's the only way to solve this.
With some $600 million in federal funding hitting the government's account, LUHR hopes the administration will take a moment and address this long-standing issue.
Animal control, animal welfare really is a government service. And GAIN is operating a shelter that belongs to the government. It's long-term leased to us, but this is a government service. And right now we have one